This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, October 5th, 2018. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And thank goodness it looks like this Kavanaugh nonsense is finally winding down and we can move on to other issues and topics. We have a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments and questions. Anyway, earlier today, the Senate basically went through that procedural vote to move the nomination to the full Senate. The vote was 51-49. Interestingly enough, there was one Republican and one Democrat that actually defected to the other side here. And now all the still undecideds are trying to decide, and everybody's getting up there and making their speeches. And right now, it looks like Senator Collins is going to vote yes, and Senator Manchin says he's going to vote yes. So right now, the people who are keeping the little tally charts are saying that Kavanaugh has enough votes to be confirmed as a Supreme Court justice, and good, bad, or indifferent, it brings this whole thing to an end. So it has been a real circus. And I think everybody's tired of it. I actually got emails from some of our listeners saying, enough already, we've got to move on to other things. And during the recent shows, I have been trying to move on to other things. But this has been a contentious debate. There's no question about that. And there are serious issues related to the makeup, if you will, of the Supreme Court that needed to be looked at here. So anyway, it all comes down to this. The senators, they're trying to be sympathetic to Christine Ford, and Collins' speech was going on and on about, how I'm sure she suffered a sexual assault and it traumatized her life, and then just went on to say, there's no corroborating evidence. And Collins just laid out all these holes in the story, bit by bit, and finally said that she will vote to confirm Kavanaugh. So barring an unexpected surprise, it looks like this is all going to be over tomorrow. There are still some lingering scandals here. Remember Leland Kaiser? She's a friend of Christine Ford. Ford claimed was at the party where she was assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh. Kaiser not only refuted the accuser's version of the story, but during this last FBI investigation, she told FBI investigators that Ford's allies tried to pressure her to change her story. Now, Leland Kaiser does not know Judge Kavanaugh. She has no recollection of being at the party where he was present with or without Ford. And in retaliation, Ford attacked Kaiser. And it just got really vicious here. But according to the Wall Street Journal, Kaiser informed investigators that Ford's friend, former FBI agent Monica McLean, the lady that Ford had taught how to beat a polygraph, had pressured her to change the original statement. And it's another example of why the FBI really shouldn't be trusted. They're kind of sleazy if you think about it here. And there were still some last-second desperation attempts. Apparently yesterday, Oregon Senator Jeff Markley tried to file a restraining order against Mitch McConnell to prevent the Kavanaugh vote. Now, obviously, that has gone nowhere because they had the vote to end to debate earlier today. Tomorrow will be the final confirmation vote. And the rancor that's out there, apparently Planned Parenthood on their official Twitter feed, came on out and with this, quote, "Vote no on Kavanaugh or else we're coming for you," end quote. That sounds to me like some kind of a threat. And of course, we understand if somebody brings a lawsuit to overturn Roe versus Wade, Planned Parenthood is going to be out of the chop up the babies and sell them for medical parts business. Now, at this point, I don't know if anybody's actually getting ready to mount a challenge to Roe versus Wade, and it would be contentious, and I'm not entirely convinced that Kavanaugh would, vote it down. Time will tell. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt and see how he starts ruling while he's on the bench. Now, a lot of the people who were supporting Christine Ford have been called on their hypocrisy for having previously supported Bill Clinton when he was having all of these allegations of sexual assault, including forcible rape, that had a lot more corroboration. And it's just, and they would have comments about the accusers like, well, this is what you get when you drag $100 bill through a trailer park. Just really nasty stuff. So actress Alyssa Milano, who used to tweet about her crazy amount of love for Bill Clinton, she was challenged by CNN's Chris Cuomo over this double standard of attacking Kavanaugh and giving Clinton a free pass. And she sort of backed off and said that, yeah, Bill Clinton should have faced an FBI probe over the sex assault allegations. So everybody is now trying to save face after this debacle. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, of course, in hour number 3, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us with her unique perspective on the world. So now everybody is looking at the midterms and how is this whole Kavanaugh carnival going to impact that. Obviously, if Kavanaugh is confirmed tomorrow, and it looks like he will be, this is going to be seen as a victory for the Republican Party, and it's going to probably boost their support. It's going to energize them. And the Republican National Committee is fundraising like crazy. See, the historical tendency has been in the midterm elections, the party that is out of power tends to do well, usually out of disappointment over the party that's in power. But they're trying to energize the Democrats. They've got, Bill Clinton's out there saying, get out there and vote. Hillary Clinton's out there saying, I should have won in 2016, and oh yes, get out and vote. But I think Republican voters need to take a good look at how the Democrats behaved during the whole Kavanaugh hearing and just ask yourself, is this the kind of leadership that you want in Congress? Now, right now, the polling is showing that the Senate is likely to stay under GOP control. The House is at risk. And if the Democrats win the House or steal it, they will shut down every single House investigation into the corruption at the FBI, the Department of Justice, everything, all of it will go away. All that hard work trying to drain the swamp is going to have been for naught. Okay, so in deference to that email I got about enough is enough, we're going to move on now to the war zones because there is a lot of stuff going on here. We're seeing over in Syria, in the Euphrates Valley, that these various militant groups like ISIS and the Syrian Democratic Forces, they're clashing with each other. They're fighting with each other. And whether it's for control of assets, control of the oil, or just because they don't like each other, but it does seem to be spinning out of control. And the irony is, of course, we know the United States at one point backed ISIS, trained them, armed them, supplied them. And so it looks like this whole Syria operation has basically fallen apart. And the United States finds itself in this very awkward position of supporting two sides that are fighting each other. So apparently back on the 3rd, the Syrian Democratic Forces captured about 10 positions near the ISIS-held town of Hajin and expanded a buffer zone near the recently captured town of al-Baguz al-Fakwani. So a lot of little skirmishes. This is the cleanup phase. For all intents and purposes, the main war is pretty much over. Okay, so there's been another U.S. airstrike in Syria that has killed more civilians. And apparently in southeastern Deir ez-Zor, a U.S.-led coalition fighter jets targeted the town of al-Susa, killing at least 4 members of a family. And they attacked this house, and several civilians were killed in attacks on eastern Deir ez-Zor. Some of the wounded are in critical condition here. Now, do you remember when this Syrian war was being presented as a civil war, and the U.S. didn't really want to get involved, and we were promised there'd be no boots on the ground? Well, we know that that was a lie. There have been boots on the ground all along. And now the U.S. military has sent another convoy of troops and equipment to its base in northwestern Hasaka to basically rebuild the base, reinforce its buildup in northern Syria. And a new U.S. coalition was sent to regions occupied, again, by the Syrian Democratic Forces. The convoy consisted of military weapons and equipment and logistics and building materials, which entered the U.S. base at Tal Baidar region. U.S. forces have been setting up more military bases in Hasaka province amid tensions between civilians and the Kurds. None of those bases are, of course, authorized by the government of Syria. Now, Russia has filed an official information request with the United States to explain experiments with biological and chemical weapons being conducted at U.S. labs located in Georgia. Russian Georgia, not here in the United States, Georgia. And Russian officials basically delivered an ultimatum to Washington that Moscow will not tolerate the housing or experimentation of such weapons near its borders. This may be pushback for the U.S. ambassador to NATO, saying that the U.S. was considering military intervention to destroy a factory where the U.S. accuses Russia of making a ground-launched intermediate-range cruise missile that violates a Cold War treaty, which the U.S. itself is already in violation of. Meanwhile, Russia is testing their new Kh-35U unified cruise missile, and they had a test in September at the Pacific test range, and they had 8 unmanned ships, old unused ships, target practice ships, whatever, and they launched these cruise missiles from the Sukhoi 34 long-range strike plane, and all 8 of the targets were destroyed. Now, apparently, this Kh-35U is a unified subsonic sea-skimming anti-ship cruise missile. It has a high explosive fragmentation penetrator warhead. It has a range of 144 miles. It is designed to take out surface ships with a displacement of 5,000 tons. So it's not a threat to something like an aircraft carrier. But it can take out ships of 5,000 tons. And this is a superior missile to the U.S. air-launched Naval Strike Missile, which has a range of only 100 miles. And this is probably the reason why so many countries are now starting to buy their weapons from Russia. And the U.S. always comes back and says, well, if you don't buy your weapons from us, we will sanction you. Yes, our weapons are more expensive, and yes, they may be inferior, but by golly, you buy our weapons, or we'll give you economic what for here. Russia has launched on a program to modernize and refurbish its heavy caliber artillery. This is basically the howitzers, and they're expecting to have all of this done by 2021. These weapons were in storage. They're having new systems added, probably computer control, and brand new equipment is being installed. Barrels, recoil mechanisms, and other components are being replaced or refitted. So everybody's getting ready for the big war. Everybody's getting ready for that big war. And of course, we're seeing all this propaganda coming on out. Russia did this, Russia did that. You know, Putin's an evil man. The same propaganda we saw about, well, any country and any leader the U.S. is targeting. We saw that in the run-up to the war in Iraq. We saw that in the run-up to the war to Syria. It's a standard operating procedure here. And the American corporate media are still pounding on Russiagate. And that apparently is a central part of the new anti-Russia propaganda, which basically creates a political climate in which Trump really is hamstrung in terms of conducting any kind of negotiations with Moscow to bring the crisis back down. But you've got the New York Times and the Washington Post are still out there screaming President Putin ordered an attack on America consisting of meddling in the 2016 presidential election. And the corporate media is still pounding on this, even though several of the foundational elements have been seriously challenged and many even discredited. It's war propaganda. And I'm going to ask you again, how many more times do you have to be lied to until you are willing to stand up and say, I will not be lied to again? Now, one of the reasons that Russia may be getting out the Rust-Oleum on their old artillery is NATO is getting ready to deploy 45,000 troops near the border of Russia. And they're saying it's a purely defensive exercise to counter Russian aggression here. And apparently NATO is running drills, Trident Juncture, which is set to begin on the 25th of this month, with live field exercises continuing until November 7th. And apparently 31 allied countries and partners will participate. Yeah, that's a world war right there on the making here. And so, again, we know who the aggressor is here. You're not seeing Russia and their allies up in Canada approaching our border. You don't see Russian naval assets sailing around the Gulf of Mexico. Now, Mike Pence, who's also out there doing rallies to campaign for the GOP, is now pushing China as the #1 enemy. And Mike Pence is out there saying that China is seeking a regime change in the U.S. because they're unhappy with the trade war. Well, I understand they're unhappy with the trade war. But Pence is out there saying, well, Trump's leadership is working, which is what you say at a political rally. But then he came on back and said there can be no doubt China is meddling in America's democracy. Well, here is the hard reality. Every government on earth meddles in every other government's internal politics. Certainly Israel does here in the United States. For that matter, so does Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Great Britain, France. It's a reality of global geopolitics. It's not unique when that happens. And certainly the United States never hesitates to meddle in other people's internal politics. That's what regime change is. And remember, since the end of World War II, the U.S. government has tried to regime change more than 50 different countries. Some of them supposedly are allies, and they've succeeded about half the time. And even when they succeed, it doesn't always last, as was the case in Iran. The CIA went into Iran in 1953, overthrew the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh, and installed the Shah of Iran, who was a tyrant, until finally the Iranian people kicked the Shah out in 1979. We got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about the conflict areas around the world. And I know we live in an age of digital maps and Google Earth, which I absolutely love. But sometimes I feel like I just want to buy a good old-fashioned globe, physical globe, and just start painting on it in red where all these conflicts are going on. It's just kind of an icon of a civilization, species, if you will, that seems intent on self-immolation here. Over in Israel, they've just announced they're going to construct 14,864 new settler units in the occupied West Bank. And of course, this is illegal. There's been an international outcry. And Israel's attitude is, meh, we don't care. But this will basically triple the number of the number of settler population in the area. Now, as this being Friday, there was another march for the Great March for the Right of Return. Israeli forces killed 7 Palestinians, including 2 teens and a 12-year-old. So that is going on. And again, I admire the courage of the Gazans, the Palestinians, who are willing to continue doing this. And on the other side, what else do they have to lose? They're being starved to death. The hospitals in Gaza are running short on fuel. Israel has responded by tightening the requirements for medical transfers. And apparently there was this woman, Hanan al-Kodari, and she posted on Facebook, Israeli authorities rejected her request to accompany her 3-year-old son, Louis, who is suffering from aggressive soft tissue sarcoma, to his chemotherapy treatment in East Jerusalem. And the Israeli authorities said she couldn't go because one of her relatives is a Hamas operative. And they were very vague. They didn't have a name. They just said, yeah, one of your relatives is Hamas, so we can't let you go. But in any event, denying gravely ill Palestinians from receiving life-saving treatment, it's immoral, and it is illegal. Now, every 5 years, there are municipal elections in Israel, and the next ones are the end of the month. And so the campaign posters are going up. And Netanyahu's party is putting up posters that basically are exploiting racism. And the theme is, it's us or them. And apparently there's a poster campaign in Jaffa saying that Jaffa can either be a Hebrew city or one taken over by the Islamist movement. And apparently they're also attacking the African refugees, calling them infiltrators. Netanyahu himself has been questioned over the corruption charges for the 12th time. I don't know if they're really doing a thorough investigation or they're just trying to drag this out and make it look like they're actually trying to do their job until Netanyahu finally retires or loses his next election. But apparently the questioning is related to 2 cases dubbed Case 1000 and Case 2000. And Netanyahu is accused of accepting lavish gifts from 2 influential businessmen in return for favorable legislation and personal favors. In the other case, he's being investigated for promising Arnon Moses, the owner of the Israeli newspaper Yedoth Aharonoth, that he would curtail the circulation of Israel, Hayam, and Moses' main competitor publication in return for favorable coverage of him and his policies. And it's not like we haven't seen similar things here. I mean, back during Operation Desert Storm, the U.S. government went to the media and said, if you report the war the way we want it reported, we'll rescind all those laws limiting how much media any one corporation can own. And that began the great media consolidation which has led to a situation in which everything that you read, see, or hear is under the control of just a very, very few hands, who are all buddy-buddy with each other. They're all heavily invested in the military-industrial complex. Apparently, there's been another whoopsie. A brand new F-35C Lightning II and an FA-18 Super Hornet were damaged while carrying out in-flight mid-air refueling over the North Atlantic Ocean. And the damage to the Lightning was rated Class A, which means the repairs are expected to run into the millions of dollars. And I certainly hope that comes out of the pilot's paycheck. I mean, somebody goofed rather badly there. It's one of the downsides of the F-35. It's not only expensive to buy, it's expensive to keep up. We have to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here in just a second. Okay, we're going to talk about the economic news for a bit. If you have been paying attention over the last several years, you may have started to realize just how many banks seem to be caught up in criminal activity, whether it's fraud or money laundering or rigging. And it sort of reminds me that Jesse James was right. The banks are the real outlaws. And I think this next story illustrates that apparently Danske Bank is in the middle of a $234 billion money laundering scandal. It sent their stocks plummeting today. In fact, the stock market as a whole did not have a good day today. They didn't get their traditional Friday happy ending. So apparently Danske Bank executed up to 8.5 billion euros in mirror trades for Russian customers in a single year. And it's one of the largest money laundering scandals in European history. So anyway, banks doing business in Estonia, which has been at the center of the money laundering scandal involving Danske Bank, handled more than €1 trillion in cross-border flows between 2008 and 2017. Now, this EU member country, their total population is 1.3 million people, and it's a big scandal. The banks there in Estonia laundered money from Russia, Moldova, Azerbaijan via non-resident bank accounts. And the scandal has forced lenders in Estonia and neighboring Latvia to simply shut down. Anyway, other indicators that things are not as rosy as the people on the campaign trail would have you believe. Manhattan total real estate sales have seen their fourth consecutive double-digit quarterly decline. Of course, real estate prices in Manhattan are just through the roof. It's just absolutely obscene what those prices are here. But it's not just Manhattan. Over in Vancouver, their home sales have dropped 44%. Over in Hong Kong, their real estate sales have fallen for the first time since 2016. So, more bad news. Now, earlier in the week, we were talking about Retail-mageddon, and we were talking about all these companies that look like they're either going to vanish or at least go into bankruptcy, and we mentioned one of them was Mattress Firm, which today has officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, and they're going to close up to 700 stores. And apparently these 700 stores were underperforming, and part of the bankruptcy laws are going to allow them to get out of the leases. Now, Mattress Firm said it's going to close 200 stores now and make decisions about the other 500 in the coming weeks. There are more than 3,300 Mattress Firm stores in the United States. It's interesting. Claire and I were out and about yesterday and listening, to the car radio, and we heard a commercial for Mattress Firm, and oh boy, I mean, prices marked way down. They can't move product, which is consistent across retail, whether it's car sales or durable goods sales or anything. People just don't have the money to buy here. And another telling indication about the state of the economy, over in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the largest ever homeless camp just suddenly popped up. And it's something like over 300 tents in this homeless camp. And city officials are trying to contain the situation because there's been rivalry, there have been fights, there have been 2 deaths. There's concerns, obviously, about disease and infection, illicit drug use, and of course, the coming winter season. This is going to be a hard, hard winter, and people who are homeless in those northern latitudes, they are at risk. Out in Los Angeles, there's been a sudden surge in tick-borne diseases among the homeless population there. Public health is at risk from all of this. You can't have this kind of thing going on and say this is a healthy economy. I mean, obviously it's good for the people at the top. They're having a really, really good time. But for everybody else, not so much. And I think there was this movie, I saw it on cable recently. It was called, I think it was called Elysium, starred Jodie Foster. And it was about this highly stratified society where all the rich and elite and powerful lived on this giant space station up in the sky. It was so big you could just see it, you know, from Earth in detail. It was kind of a giant Dyson ring. And everybody else on the ground, they were the workers and they were the poor, and they were treated terribly. And the whole point of the movie was trying to get up to Elysium to get medical care brought down for the people on the ground who were very, very ill. All right, so let's talk now about immigration, refugees. Apparently up in Quebec, there are 2 asylum seekers. Now, they're seekers. They have not been granted asylum status. They're just seeking asylum. They're demanding free daycare, and they have filed a human rights complaint with the Human Rights and Youth Rights Commission because they're being denied subsidized daycare. And they say it prevents them from entering the workforce and beginning their lives in the province. Well, again, they're not actually confirmed as refugees yet. So, anyway, that's a big problem with all of this refugee thing or the illegal immigrant situation. They get into their destination countries, whether it's here in the United States or it's in Europe, and they start demanding things. Somebody has filled their head with this idea that they have finally found the land of milk and honey, and they are entitled to all kinds of things. And they're not always on the best of behavior. Apparently down in Melbourne, 100 African youths basically got into this train and held the train doors open and screamed abuse. And apparently the police had to be called. Apparently there was an altercation. Now let's go over to France here a little bit. And there's something very interesting happening because the open borders people, the globalists, are still trying to push this agenda of having all these Middle Eastern refugees flood into Europe and the United States, and they're trying to downplay the violence and the link to terrorism. And over in France, they've come on out with this report trying to delineate between Islamism, which is linked to terror, and Islam itself, meaning not all Muslims are bad, which is accurate. Okay, that's accurate. Not all Christians are bad, not all Jews are bad, not all atheists are bad. But they're trying to basically do that divide. And they're trying to create a case that criticism is bad. And this gets us over to this situation with Marine Le Pen, who has been out there talking about the reality that as the borders are open and refugees are streaming in without any kind of proper vetting, that inevitably violence in France has gone up, and there have been terror attacks. And so the court requested Marine Le Pen to undergo a psychiatric evaluation to determine if she's sane, which means the government of France is going back to the old Soviet trick of using psychiatry to silence dissidents of political opponents. In other words, in the eyes of the French government, criticizing terrorism is now a mental illness, and I have no doubt the pharmaceutical industry is already working on a pill they will sell you for that. So, anyway, turning back to home, a lot of stuff going on. Over in Baltimore, it's now recognized as our nation's deadliest big city. This is according to the FBI. Baltimore is just heading into ruin and chaos. Now, the Democratic Party has been asleep at Baltimore City Hall for nearly 5 decades. Nearly half a century, Baltimore has been under Democratic Party rule. And during that time, it's become deindustrialized. It's lost its manufacturing base and the jobs that go with it. And now it has the highest homicide rate among the nation's 50 largest cities, population over 500,000. That was last year. The second highest violent crime rate overall. Now, the city's population is in decline. Since the 1960s, the population has been cut basically in half. People have been forced to move on and try and find something better. Baltimore was once the center of American ingenuity for its massive steel manufacturing plants. But the city has been rotting from within for decades. When you think of Baltimore today, it's The Wire, the 2015 riots, murders come to mind. I saw a web article not too long ago that was basically photographs of some of Baltimore's once magnificent architectural wonders just fallen into decay. And that is a real tragedy as well. Getting into the area of political correctness, you're going to love this one. Apparently down in Texas at the Stephen F. Austin High School, they have now declared that the homecoming crown will go gender neutral. Now, if you remember homecoming when you went to high school, there was a homecoming king and a homecoming queen, and that was kind of the traditional thing. But apparently this Texas high school is saying it's going to be gender neutral, and that basically people can vote for whoever they want, male or female, and if it's 2 guys who get the most votes, they'll get the crowns, or if it's 2 girls. And apparently there are these seniors, Cecilia McBride and her girlfriend, Story Dormsif, who have been nominated for the homecoming court. And according to the high school administration, if they both won, they get up there with the crowns. So I'm not sure how I feel about this, because it's one thing for acceptance, but to bring it into the school system and just shove it down the throats of the kids, I don't agree with that agenda. These are very young people. They're still in their formative years. They're still figuring themselves out. If you remember what you were like in high school, most of us don't really have a good image of who we are until we're well into our 20s, and we start to sort of firm up our personality and our worldview. And I think there's a very thin line between acceptance and indoctrination. And I think this sort of crosses the line. And maybe I'm just being a traditionalist, and maybe I don't want to see the guys being discriminated against, which is really what it comes down to. Every time there's a protected group that's given some special privilege, then something else is taken away from somebody else. And it's rather amazing to see the liberals scream, this is a victim, this is a victim. We got to take something away from somebody else and give it to them, and then ignores the fact they've just victimized somebody else. Story coming out of the Mises organization here, and it's titled, Your Privilege Level, How Much Can We Steal From You in the Name of Equality? And the left has been pushing this idea of privilege to try and guilt us all into accepting that we have to have something taken away from us and given to those who don't have it, which we're seeing now down in South Africa and Namibia. But here's the reality. Some people are just born beautiful, and some are not. Are the liberals going to insist that the beautiful people endure facial scarring and that the less than beautiful people be given free plastic surgery? I mean, you can see how ridiculous this can all get taken to an extreme. And if you think about how liberalism, how the Democrats have changed, I mean, back with John F. Kennedy, it was ask not what your country can do for you, but for what you can do for your country. And today it's give us free stuff, give us free stuff, give us free stuff. Okay. Apparently a police officer, Jackson Police Department officer Sherry Hall, has been sent to jail for faking a war on cops. Remember that was a meme that we were seeing last year. Oh, there's a war on cops. The police have every right to be aggressive and shoot first and ask questions. There's a war on cops, which, by the way, was never borne out by any of the statistics. But apparently this officer Sherry Hall shot herself and claimed she was attacked by a black man. And the media made a big deal about it. The country the whole story spread across the entire country. And the town was locked down. The suspect was brought on in. But the investigation revealed, yeah, they'd been duped by their own officer, and the story was a complete fabrication. And this officer, Sherry Hall, is going to go to prison for 15 years, followed by another 23 years on probation. And I think this is a good thing. I think anybody in any position, any office, who does something like that, such as falsely accusing a Supreme Court nominee of assault, ought to be sent to prison for it. We're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And a quick word of explanation for those people who are waiting on the phone lines. We had a small technical glitch where I was not receiving text messages from the control room and didn't know there were callers waiting on the line. So I thank you for your patience here. So let's get right on into it, starting with Jason in New York. Aloha, Jason. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Big fan.
Thank you.
Been listening since about 2012. I love you and Clay on Friday. Great spot.
Thank you.
Trump, you don't think he's doing a good job, huh?
Nope.
No? I know you talk about how the American empire is dying.
Yes.
And what do you think was the start of that? Like, when did that start?
A little over 100 years ago, when our nation was sold into the slavery of the Federal Reserve by a corrupt Congress and a corrupt president.
Right. And then, basically, when Kennedy got assassinated.
Yes.
You think that was a coup?
Jim Garrison said it best. It was a coup d'etat.
Right. I guess you could say, military-wise, we're still pretty strong, though, aren't we?
Well, I'm starting to wonder how real our military is and how much of it's a bluff. I mean, we're hearing all this talk about how the F-35 may not be as stealthy. We know that setting the stealth aside, it's not very effective. There was that report that came out the other day about most of our carrier force is spending more time in maintenance than it is at sea. And it may be that America's military might, outside of the nuclear arsenal, is more bluff, more bark than bite, so to speak.
Right. Another question. With our society today, it's kind of crazy, man. I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, it seemed like everybody got along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with all this political craziness with Trump, it's just different,
Yeah.
I don't know what can be done. I'm surprised Trump he hasn't been assassinated yet,
Well, if they can't impeach him, if they can't get him out, they may try. Although I don't know why. So far, Trump is given the deep state pretty much everything that they've wanted. He's backed off investigating Hillary Clinton and trying to put her in jail. He's giving them all the wars that they want. Every piece of legislation he signs is a corporate giveaway. He's dropped the issue of election fraud. He's dropped the issue of vaccine safety. In fact, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just started his own new website to basically try and revive that issue. And so Trump really has not kept his promises from the campaign. And he's still talking about immigration and the wall and everything, but the immigration problem is still running out of control. And
quick question: do you think Hillary's going to run again?
I hope not. I absolutely hope not, but I would not be surprised if she tried. There was talk about it a little while ago. Anyway, listen, thanks an awful lot for the call, Jason. We got to take a break for station identification. We'll be back with another phone call after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the telephones to Jeff in St. Paul. Aloha, Jeff. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Jeff, are you there?
Yeah, hi. I'm calling. I live in St. Paul, but I'm a cab driver. I work in Minneapolis a lot. And the deal is there's this homeless camp. And what it is there's a American Indian housing development at 25th and Cedar, and there's a highway called Hiawatha that comes in and parallels the river from like down by the airport into Minneapolis, and there's a tent camp that is growing. And I drove by there this morning, and they've got these trailers that have like spotlights on the top. Sometimes they say police, but today there was 2 of them at the south end of the camp, and there's been at least 3 women that have been died. There's MRSA, which is an infection disease there, and there's been a lot of like young girls that have been tried to be messed with by homeless people, and they're trying to move the camp about 10 or 12 blocks west into an area. There's some land that's owned by American Indian tribe. But the deal is that every day in Minneapolis, there's like thousands of more immigrants that are coming in and expecting to be set up and accommodated. And so it's becoming an industry.
Yes.
Of homeless acceptance or immigrant acceptance. And I'm a cab driver, and most of the rides are charge accounts for medical rides for people that are receiving government services. And that's what's happening over here.
Yeah. It's a mess. And the homeless problem, we have a homeless problem here on Oahu. We've got 8,000 homeless just on this island alone. In fact, Claire and I, again, yesterday we were out and about doing errands, and we had an encounter with a homeless person. Just the vibes coming off this person were very scary. And
where are the government-sponsored food trucks to take care of these people?
I
and
don't
out
know that
meals.
there are any. I mean, the not dangerous homeless and hungry are being handled mostly by private charity.
Hey, so listen, another thing I want to talk about is you got married to someone that's your webmaster, right?
I'm married to somebody who's what?
The webmaster of the website?
No. I mean, she posts to the website. I'm the webmaster.
Okay, well, so I'm having a lot of problems where I'm like 5 or 6 pages into what really matters or where it really happened. And all of a sudden I get like some Amazon gift card page that comes up and I can't clear it. I have to go back and start over. So I was wondering if you could, down at the bottom of your page, you've got the numbers 1 through 12 or whatever to go to the next page.
Yes.
If at the top you could have some doohickey that would let you hit the home page so you get the first page, and then it would show you like pages 1 through whatever. And maybe at the end there'd be the last page so you can see the freshest news.
Okay, well, let me ask you.
really
Let me
enjoy
ask
your
you a
site.
question here. I've gotten a lot of complaints about this, and I have no end of trouble with advertisers who refuse to play by the rules. This Amazon.com is a popover over the whole website.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
supposed. Yeah, that's not supposed to
comes
happen.
up and it's got like all these numbers.com but if you could put at the top of the site where you could hit the home or the first or the 5th page and maybe hit the last page so you get the freshest news. And the other thing I noticed is that if I'm on page 1 and I go to page 2, about 4 of the stories on page 2 are the same ones that were on page 1.
Well, that's
So
because
there's a
new
lot of-
material is constantly being added, during the time you're reading page 1. And so it's not unusual when you go to page 2, some of the items will have scrolled over. But my solution is I'm trying to find who's behind this Amazon ad, and the people who abuse the ad system, they go to very great lengths to try and conceal who they are. And I'm going to be working on that over the weekend. I was working on it this morning before the radio show, trying to find
like
out.
Today, I'm a cab driver, right? I'm a cab driver, and I had about 3 or 4 people. I says, "Are you on the internet? Do you do the internet?" And they said, "Yeah." I says, "Well, here, let me give you." And I took a 3x5 card, and I wrote down your website and a couple other ones. And they says, "Here, these guys are legitimate. They're the alternative news sites. They're telling what's really going on." And they said thank you and stuff. But so I've been passing out your info for a while, and but like getting back to what's going on in Minneapolis is that we are basically, there's people that are just crashing. They have no place to go. They're staying there with the signs up on the corners everywhere. And there's no services for the average people. It's only for the immigrants. If you're an immigrant, you're driving a Toyota and living in a new apartment with Social Security and education for your kids. But if you're an American veteran, you're living out in the streets.
Yeah, I know. It's just completely psychotic, along with the other aspect, which is the U.S. is spending billions on war and hardly any on the American people. The U.S. government is treating the illegal immigrants better than the American citizens. They're treating the refugees better than the American citizens. They treat the Israelis better than the American citizens. And you have to wonder, how much longer is this going to go on before something unfortunate happens?
Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate you, and I know that like a couple days of this week, your show didn't make the internet, for the live broadcast.
We missed a show about a week ago because I had computer problems, but we've been on the air every day.
Monday and Tuesdays, it wouldn't go live when I hit the button.
Oh, that must be YouTube messing with us again. What can I say? It's definitely a problem.
Well, is there any chance that the government's going to step in and make sure that there's like an honest service doctrine for using these services that everybody gets a chance to participate?
Quite the contrary. In fact, out in California, they actually did pass a law saying that all internet traffic had to be treated equally, and the Department of Justice immediately sued to reimpose this idea that the big corporations get the lion's share of the bandwidth, and the rest of us have to just, fight over the scraps. Anyway, listen, Jeff, we're going to let you go, and I am trying to find out who's abusing our advertising system with that Amazon ad, and I'm hoping somebody is going to capture that ad.
You can't go 4 pages into your site without getting hit and jump to another site. All right, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm still trying to solve the problem. The irony is I'm not seeing it here. So whoever is doing it is trying to make sure I don't see what's going on. So it's going to take a little time. But I'm hoping somebody's going to be able to send me a screen capture of that Amazon ad with as much identifying information as possible so I can track it down. Because, sometimes I'm on the verge of telling all the advertisers, you're all fired. Unfortunately, I'm dependent on them for the money that it takes to run all of this. But the first 12 years that I did this, I paid for it out of my own pocket, and that was all well and good. Unfortunately, in the current economic reality, WhatReallyHappened.com, like Republic Broadcasting, we're dependent on our advertisers, as troublesome as they can be. We're dependent on the generosity of our audience as well to keep us going. I wish I could get rid of the advertisers, because very often they are far more trouble to deal with than that small pittance of revenue that they generate. Anyway, Jeff, we're going to let you go. Thank you very much for the phone call. The phone lines are open and our text window is now working. And we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Now, we were talking about stinky badges, and there's a story. This is coming on out from Chicago, and apparently this is related to this police officer, this white Chicago cop, Jason Van Dyke, who shot this black teenager, Laquan McDonald, fired at him 16 times, which seems a little bit extreme. And the officer tried to justify it by saying that the teenager had a knife with him that he raised up in a threatening manner. Well, the knife was actually a folding blade, which, I don't know what they mean. A Swiss Army knife? I have a Swiss Army knife on my belt. Does that mean the police are going to shoot me? But apparently the videos didn't support that story, and the jury basically convicted him, and he could go to prison for a very, very long time. And again, I see this as a good thing, because the police have gotten totally out of control. They've gone from to protect and to serve to we treat you like a king, as in Rodney King. We're going to go back to the phones here. Ken in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I didn't see that when I go on your website. I use an ad blocker, and apparently it doesn't interfere with your ads, but what it does is it will try to block things that are trying to sneak in. So I don't know if that presents a problem for you. Recently, I went to order something.
It doesn't, because my main web browser has an ad blocker and all kinds of security and everything, but I have a separate installed web browser that's pure vanilla, with no add-ons, no web blocking. That's the one that I use to check the site for bad behavior. And I haven't seen that Amazon ad, but I need to track down who's doing this, because again, it's against the rules.
Yeah, sometimes what will happen is when I go on a website, it'll throw a flag up and it'll ask me to turn the ad blocker off, so that doesn't interfere with the website, and I'll turn it off. But the reason I started using it is even on eBay, where you shouldn't be getting any of this, when you have an ad blocker off, and you don't use one, you see all kinds of activity. It's slowing your bandwidth down, all of the stuff that's being thrown at you in the background.
Oh yeah, there is, and I see that here with our advertisers, and you'd think it would just be go off to the server and get the ad, but they'll go off to a server, which forwards to another server, which forwards over here to this other server, and it's how they obfuscate where the ads are coming from if they're engaging in less than ethical behavior. I do wish the online advertising industry would clean up its act, because I imagine that probably a lot of webmasters like myself are saying it really is more trouble than it's worth.
I'm sorry, I just got knocked off and I came back on again. The other thing I've noticed, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you buy something from Amazon, I had something extra thrown in on my order that I didn't want. And then I had to go through some forms to get it pulled off.
And they charged you for
it? Something like, yes, until I protested. I filled out a request to pull it off, and it says, it's saying that I canceled an order I made. I think what they're doing is they're putting buttons in tricky places. They don't realize if you're not clicking on the button, you could click somewhere off the button and still have it added to your order. It's like a little bottle of eye drops.
That would definitely be unethical. But we live in a very unethical time here, and again, we're seeing greed override all of the considerations in our society. And I don't know about Amazon itself, but I have seen some very deceptive buttons in other websites where you think you're canceling something, and in actuality it goes forward. Another one that you need to look for is an active cancellation, where they'll put up an ad saying, we're going to send this to you, and you look for some place to confirm and you don't see it, and what you miss is down at the bottom it says, in order to stop this from happening, in order to stop this from going onto your credit card, you have to click this button. And again,
you know what I'll do? If I get in a situation like that, I just do Control-Alt-Delete and then pick the pieces up afterwards and start over again. I've seen that also, where it's not obvious where to cancel, or maybe you're being tricked. For all you know, it could be some kind of scam being not spyware, but some kind of a scam being inserted.
Well, just for the benefit of everybody listening to the show, obviously I cannot control and be responsible for the behavior of the advertisers or the maladvertisers. But I do pay for a service that constantly scans the whatreallyhappened.com website for any kind of a security threat or malware. And so I know that my code is clean and is not harming anybody's machine. But keeping the advertisers in line, oh boy, has that become... It's become yet another major part of the workload.
I've found that I still use XP3 and I use Opera. And Opera now is really Google. It's Chrome, but at least it has a button where you can push a button and wipe all of the garbage out. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot here. And there are times when I think we've allowed these systems to become too complex. When you look at all the troubles that is coming out with the latest Windows 10 update, for example, they've allowed the technology to become so complex they can't manage it anymore. And interestingly enough, we've seen the same thing in history as a signal of the collapse of a civilization. Ancient Rome was a good example. Early on, ancient Rome built all these amazing things, the aqueducts, the Colosseum, the road system, and then as Rome succumbed to decay and debt, they could no longer maintain what they had built before, and it all eventually fell into ruin. Okay, the phone lines are open now. Getting on back to stories about the police here. Remember that story down in Dallas where this policewoman, Amber Goiger, claimed to have walked into the wrong apartment. She thought it was her apartment and saw a man there and killed him, Botham Jean. And the response by the police department was to try and smear him and make him look unsympathetic and say, oh, well, he was doing drugs and this and that. And they finally fired this officer. And there may be a prosecution. But the police, there's still signs of a cover-up. They're refusing to release the 9/11 call made by Amber Goiger because she went on in, she shot this guy and supposedly made a 9/11 call. I've shot somebody. I think I'm in the wrong apartment. We don't know, and we're not going to find out. But the official story is that she walked into the wrong apartment accidentally, mistook Gene for an intruder, and killed him. And that story's been fishy right from the very beginning. Was this Gene in the habit of just leaving his front door unlocked? Did this Geiger walk into this apartment and not immediately realize it wasn't hers? So, over in Orlando, there was another shooting. 3 police officers shot a suspect. Brian Baker was unarmed and died at the scene. And the officers insisted he made a motion consistent with pulling a firearm, at which point the 3 officers shot him. And, oh, golly gee whiz, I'm sorry, the body cameras were not working on any of the officers. Now, you're going to love this one, okay? The DEA official tasked with stopping DEA sex parties is now under investigation for hiring prostitutes for sex parties. And this apparently began back in 2015 when this guy named Dobrich was brought on in after this expose that found several DEA agents had participated in sex parties with prostitutes hired by the Colombian drug cartels. And this guy was sent in there to clean up the mess, and instead he went over to the other side. We got to take a break for commercials. We will be right back.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and Fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org. And thank you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven.
Okay, I just lost my feed from RBN. Mike, can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay, all right, because our little system that connects my studio with RBN is really acting up today here. So anyway, you may have seen this video. It's gone viral, and it's basically where there was this pro-life demonstration called Life Chain up in Toronto, Canada, last Sunday. And there was this activist, Marie-Claire Bissonnette, she's 27 years old. And there was this other guy there who's this pro-choice male hairstylist. And Marie-Claire accused him of vandalizing the pro-life activist signs and clothing with permanent marker pens. And all of a sudden, without warning, this guy just does a roundhouse kick on her. And she was recording the whole thing with her cell phone. And he just decked her. And it basically, it illustrates the point that the liberals are just openly embracing violence as a political tool. Now, when I was in junior college many, many years ago, there was a lot of on-campus activism. And I saw the same thing again when I was teaching over at UH Manoa. Everybody had their little table with their particular point of view, but everybody was talking. There was no destruction of the signs. There was no tearing things up. How did we cross that line here? And it's alarming. And it sort of concerns me. If, in fact, on the midterms, the Democrats fail to take the House of Representatives, and the polls, by the way, are shifting away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans, and I think it's probably because of the disgust over what was done during the Kavanaugh hearings. If the liberals don't get the House, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? All right. Now, let's talk about some science and health issues. Once again, we're getting this media frenzy to scare us into running down and get the flu shot. And the New York Times came out with an article saying that 80,000 Americans died of the flu last winter, the highest death toll ever. And it's fear-mongering. And there's more to the story than meets the eye, because it's important to point out the difference between influenza, which is the flu, and influenza-like illness. Because there's the flu virus and there are other viruses, and the symptoms are virtually the same. You get a fever, runny nose, headache, body aches. But not all of these illnesses are caused by the flu. The influenza virus type A, B, and C, and flu-like illness is caused by a variety of other viruses, which would not be affected by the flu shot. Now, the majority of individuals who have these symptoms and go to the doctor are diagnosed with the flu with no actual testing to confirm that diagnosis. And as it turns out, the percentage of people who actually have the flu test at a much smaller percentage than those who are prematurely diagnosed with the flu. The average percentage rate of the actual flu virus infection during the 15 years between 1997 and 2012 was just 15%. Now, According to the National Vaccine Information Center, many of the deaths being attributed to the flu were actually from pneumonia. And many of these deaths could be from flu-like illnesses, not the flu, that are not covered by the vaccine. In the 13 years between 1997 and 2010, only 216 people actually died of the confirmed flu. It's a marketing campaign. And once again, we're getting warnings from concerned activists. The flu shot is not safe. There is still mercury in these vaccines, including childhood vaccines. The CDC is recommending 2 doses of this vaccine, the Fluvival. But if you read the package insert, it says right there, only one. Only one in your lifetime. Never take it again. And the CDC is out there saying, oh yeah, 2 will be fine. Remember, the CDC itself makes huge amounts of money off of vaccinations. They own patents on dozens of vaccines from which they make huge amounts of money. Okay, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com. Educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500. It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to aroutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at aroutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to the phone lines here, Fox News is now reporting that the so-called victim of sexual assault who basically harassed Jeff Flake is now admitting she's a paid activist for a Soros-backed organization. And there's this other story. This apparently happened last Monday, where Senator Rand Paul, and remember, this is the guy who got beat up and his ribs broken, but apparently on Monday, as he was exiting the airport, he was met by a group of anti-Kavanaugh protesters demanding he call for another investigation into Kavanaugh. Paul basically just continued walking past them. Here's the part that I'm curious about. We keep hearing all these stories about all these anti-Kavanaugh protesters confronting these various politicians. How do they know where they're going to be? How did these women know what flight Rand Paul was coming in on? Just something to think about. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones. Jim in Michigan, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, love your show, my friend. You're talking about the flu vaccine. I mean, we've looked at flu vaccines that even the Canadian Health Department said the ones that were, before that they were telling people it didn't even do anything. There was maybe a 2% possibility of maybe, keeping you from getting the flu.
Boy, that's within the margin of statistical error.
It's like crazy. But, and again, if you look at the statistics for the vaccine court, the most people who are damaged by the flu vaccine. Guillain-Barré's, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest. I mean, people damaged by the vaccines and the vaccine courts are from the flu vaccine. They also say in the Mayo Clinic that if you have a very compromised immune system, they have a sign out there in the Mayo Clinic that says, well, my goodness, if you've just been vaccinated or vaccinated within a week or so, you can't see anybody because there's this thing called shedding, okay?
Yes.
You may have gotten the vaccine, but the shedding, it will give the person who's compromised immune system, you'll give them the whatever you've been, vaccinated for the immune system. But there's also, there was a great neurologist, I think it's Russell Blaylock, I think is the name. Anyways, they never used to give pregnant women flu vaccines because the flu vaccine, as we know, has mercury in it.
Yes.
Okay. But what they were saying is what they found is that if a woman in her first or second trimester were to get the flu, the incidence of autism would increase by sixfold. Okay.
Yes.
But Russell Blaylock said, I listened to this, and I had to listen to it 6 times to understand what the hell he was even talking about. But what it was is it was not the fact that they got the flu, but it was the stimulation by the flu of the immune system, okay? It was the glutamate, okay, which is a neurotransmitter. So what it was is it wasn't the fact that they got the flu, but the fact was that the immune system was triggered in the mother that caused the glutamate, was a neurotransmitter, okay? and that caused that child, okay, to be highly susceptible. What it did, it primed the immune system in that child. So when that child was born and they got the hepatitis B vaccine, they were gone, you know. So the medical model thought that, well, if they get the flu, they're going to have more autistic children. But what it was the triggering of the immune system that caused the autism. So what they're doing is they're going to inoculate all these women with the flu vaccine, which will trigger the immune system. So we're going to have more children with autism because they failed to understand the science behind it. It wasn't the flu that did it. It was triggering the mother's immune system that is going to cause it. Now, they go, well, we got to give the flu vaccine to every mother. And they never did that before. But again, doctors and the pharmaceuticals just totally misread the information. So now they're triggering the immune system of every mother by giving them the flu vaccine, which will increase the intensity by 6% of autism and prime these children when they get all these other vaccines for autism. So it's such a disgrace. These people should be in prison, Mike. And can I say another thing, too? I'm looking at just, when President Trump would pardon all these people, like whether it be the people who burn grass or whatever, he should also fire everybody who persecuted these people, whether it be the Justice Department or the Park Services or whatever, whoever put these people through all this crap, okay? And including people like Sheriff Opaya and everybody else, whoever prosecuted them, they should be fired immediately, get them off. So, if you do this next time, you got to get these people, you got to fire their ass so they know that if you do this again, there's going to be consequences. I don't know if that's possible. But anyways,
not in our current society. Right now, again, greed has become the overwhelming factor in all decisions in our society. Remember back in the 80s, and they were screaming about, the me generation, and they were all these yuppies that were growing up, and they were just all self-absorbed. But it is a big problem where corporations, especially vaccine corporations, computer corporations, they're out there pushing product, and there's no incentive for them to make sure that the products work properly because they're protected by law. And that's certainly true of the vaccine industry, and it's been a huge problem. If you take away the ability of consumers to sue a company for a faulty product, then the company is going to be thinking more in terms of selling product and making money than making a quality product. That's just an inevitable aspect of how corporate executives are going to be thinking.
And if I can say one more thing, Mike, is that there's no reason why us taxpayers should have to pay for illegals for anything, whether it be welfare or health care or anything.
I agree.
We should actually follow the law, and we should also talk to our congressmen and senators and go, why are we paying illegals health care and everything when our veterans are living under bridges? It's like we should. There are already laws saying Title VIII. You've talked about this many times. Why are we not arresting these mayors who sanctuary cities and stuff? It's like, no, we need to start getting really tough on these people. And if you're in illegal, you get no welfare, you get no benefits, you get no health care, no anything.
Yes.
We have to start actually talking to our senators and congressmen and going, no, it's like, it's illegal. So why are we doing this? It's like, get rid of that stuff. I don't care what the Democrats say or whatever, but the Republicans are going along with this too. So, anyways, thanks, Mike. Love your program.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Jim in New York. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation within the, quote, Patriot Radio. I think there's a lot of them, except for your show, of course, been co-opted, and all these psyops. QAnon, for example. They're always like, they're going to arrest these criminals. There's 5,000 sealed indictments that are coming in the future. It's all in the future.
Yeah.
5,000, 20,000, 100,000. And it's all just to string people along.
Yes, that's exactly right. The message is don't do anything, don't go out and be an activist, don't excuse me. Pardon me for a second. Don't don't do anything, don't be an activist. Just sit on your rear because somebody is coming to save you. QAnon's coming to save you. The Lone Ranger's going to ride over the hill any minute. Batman is in the Batmobile. The Avengers are on their way to make everything okay. No, it's not. What the government, various governments, corporate interests are trying to do is basically jam the internet. The way that there used to be radio jamming in the days of shortwave radio, where people would have shortwave radios, which are still good to have, by the way, and they would listen to news broadcasts from other countries to try and find out what was going on. And the government of the country they were living in would deliberately set up transmitters operating on the same frequency of radio stations they didn't want their own population to listen to. In Nazi Germany, radio was just coming into its own there, and the Nazi government literally subsidized the manufacture of radios for the German people. But the radios were manufactured to be only able to tune into German radio stations.
I think QAnon, among many others, they're just stringing people along. String them along with hope that something, it was 5,000, now it's 100,000. By the time Trump gets out, it'll be 5 million sealed indictments in the future. And, the guy Steve Bannon, the alt-right, quote, Patriot Radio, they're a significant constituency, just like the anti-abortion constituency. And Bannon, to his credit, was shrewd enough to, hey, let's get these people to vote for us. We'll string them along. We'll do what we did with the pro-life community for the last 40 years, I'm pro-life, like the Republicans. Reagan said he was pro-life, and then string them along, get them to vote for you. But in the end, you do nothing. And, as the Patriot right people, they go, in the future things will be solved. And, just go back to sleep. Trump will, he'll fix everything, just like Reagan did.
Yep.
Right? But, amongst all the misinformation and disinformation, you, Michael, are like a shining light in a sea of misinformation, and you have the best show of anyone. And thank you very much, and you and your wife have a great weekend.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for those very, very kind words. And I really try and do my absolute best to get through to the truth of what's going on. I have a lot of people try and feed me bad information and lead me off on false trails. And there is a lot of deliberate misinformation out there that's being planted to make the internet and the independent media look silly or to drag us off in the wrong direction. And it's kind of a bit of an intellectual minefield out there. Anyway, Jim, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open again. Now, here is an interesting story. And again, it shows that what can go wrong when healthcare stops being about healthcare and starts being about turning a fast buck. The story came out of naturalblaze.com. And it's talking about this FDA-backed channel that allows pharmaceutical companies to basically turn supplements into drugs and then remove the supplement version from the market. And this has happened to a popular and medically important version of vitamin B6. And with the FDA's approval of a new drug to treat sickle cell anemia, the same could happen to L-glutamine. The pharmaceutical companies don't want you to be able to treat yourself, and they don't want low-cost alternatives. And apparently, last year, the FDA announced the approval of Endari, which is a drug for sickle cell disease. It's an oral powder comprised of L-glutamine, which is an amino acid, which is currently available as a supplement. Now, the drug company filed an investigational new drug application demonstrating their investigation of L-glutamine as a drug. And this is important because there's no new dietary ingredient notification for L-glutamine. So by law, an NDI must be filed on supplements that came to the market after 1994. So enter the FDA's back channel. If a drug company begins investigating a nutrient for use in a drug before a supplemental company files an NDI notification on the nutrient, the pharmaceutical company can ask the FDA to have the supplement version removed from the market, leaving consumers with no other option than the drug. And that brings me to this next story, and this one's hitting a little bit close to home. There's a story coming on out from New Zealand where this research has now shown that vitamin D supplements do not improve bone health. Now, for decades, people have known that vitamin D is important for bone health, but this new study written by Dr. Mark Boland, who's an associate professor at the University of Auckland in New Zealand, came out and said there's little justification and that it's not really going to help with things like osteoporosis. Now, Claire, as you know, is dealing with this back injury, and in the course of her treatment, she does not have osteoporosis, but she's kind of close. And so she takes vitamin D supplements. She also takes another prescription medication that supposedly will promote bone density. We don't know which one is actually better for her. We do know the prescription medication is much more expensive. And that's the business model. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting and a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to take a phone call from Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Mike. I overheard something last night, or actually it was early this morning, listening to Jeff Rentz. And it wasn't even on topic with his guest or anything. It was the third hour, about 10 minutes into it. He just read something that I guess he was looking at on his computer. It was a statement from President Donald Trump. Basically, you know, it was just quick and short, and he didn't say where he was reading this from, but that you know, the rollout of 5G is one of Trump's priorities. And, you know, 5G is one of the things, that's one of the few things that really keeps me up at night. That really scares me. And I'm not one of these people that's an expert on it at all, but just, you know, what I have heard about it over the past several years, just, I mean, it just sounds like we're just going to be bathed in, you know, this, invisible Wi-Fi, you know, toxicity. And I think people are going to start dropping like flies.
Well,
and why is it so important for him to get this out?
Well, because, you know, people are using more and more bandwidth, and 5G is just an improvement on 4G, which was an improvement on 3G, and the radiation is basically going to be pretty much the same. It's just able to carry much more data. Now, let me ask you this question. When 5G is rolled out, what's going to happen to the companies that are running the 4G and 3G networks? They're going to go out of business. And so they have a financial motive to mount a scare campaign to tell people, ooh, 5G is bad, 5G is evil, and you don't want to go there and you don't want to use that. So just something for you to think about.
I hope you're right.
Well, I will agree with you that there's an area of concern about all of the electromagnetic radiation we're subject to. And it's not just the Wi-Fi, and it's not just the 4G or 5G. It's everything. It's AM radio broadcasts. It's FM radio broadcasts. It's all the radars on those ships down there in Pearl Harbor. Aviation radios, police radios. There's definitely a high level of saturation. And because there are so many corporate interests that are tangled up with that, nobody has really done any kind of a study to see what the long-term health effects of just this constant bathing in electromagnetic radiation, what harm it's going to cause over the long run. Because, again, you're goring people's oxes, the companies that own those radio and TV stations, or the companies that make those police and aviation radios. So I think we need to be careful. There may be an issue there, there may not. I don't know. I'd like to find out. But as far as this scare campaign about 5G, my read is that it's an attempt by the 4G and 3G providers to at least survive, if not prosper.
Okay. I also understand that it comes out of Israel, 5G, or whatever that's worth.
Okay, well, listen, there's the music. We have to take a break here for station identification. Thank you for the phone call. And when we come on back, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who likes to join us on our third hour Friday with her unique perspective on the world. So, lovely Lady Claire, what is your first story?
Well, the first story, and this came about yesterday, and Mattis was saying that the Russian GRU, which is their high-level intelligence agency, was caught red-handed hacking OPCW. Now, this organization is the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, and he vowed he's going to support our allies with all kinds of tools. And they found everything that had the digital fingerprints, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All of which can be faked.
Yes, all of which can be faked. And I'd like our readers and listeners to think about this within the context of the reality that a week from this Tuesday will be the American primaries. Okay? Now, this...
I'm sorry.
Yes, 4 weeks from on Tuesday. Yes. Now, the 4 guys were identified...
I thought I fell through a time warp.
No, that's all right, dear.
All right.
By Dutch officials, had diplomatic passports and included 2 IT experts. They hired a car and parked in the parking lot of the Marriott at The Hague, which is open to the OPCW office, to hack into their Wi-Fi network. Now, number one, what in the world would they have done that for? Can you give me any logical reason?
Well, let's think about that very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons obviously would have a lot of information about these faked chemical weapons attack in Syria.
Yes.
So I'm not going to rule out that Russia had a motive to do it.
Okay.
But again, how is it that they found these guys so quickly and were able to photograph them? It feels like it feels like it's staged. That's another setup.
It feels like it's a cyber false flag to me because, number one, everything was so clumsily and kludgily done, and the Russians aren't like that, especially if they're doing anything with IT. And what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, Mike, in all of this and the other areas that I'm going to go to today, I think that there is an uptick in the degree of demonization of Russia,
Yes.
China, and Iran.
Yes.
Demonization and sanctions are nearly always preludes, very ugly preludes, to wars. Now, with regard to Russia, there may be two theaters of war, one being the Ukraine, which has been helped and assisted by NATO training, NATO weapons,
Yes.
and support, including lethal weapons from the U.S.
Yes.
And in fact, there were reports in yesterday's TASS that Ukraine is moving its military units right up to the line of contact in Donbass.
Yes.
And this is really interesting timing-wise in terms of what may be planned, because the Donbass region has a number of breakaway republics, which when Crimea went, did not want to go back with Ukraine to begin with.
This is the giveaway right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The four men claimed to
Mhm.
be these GRU agents
Yes.
were escorted out of the Netherlands
Immediately.
as opposed to being detained for further questioning and possible trial.
Yeah.
Boy, does that not remind you of those Israeli,
Oh, man.
dancing Israelis?
Leaves a really bad taste in my mouth,
Yeah.
Mike, and that's why I'm thinking what I'm thinking.
That's the giveaway. They just
Yeah.
got rid of them as quickly as they
And
could.
the UK government further accused GRU. Is that the Gru from Minions? Because I think that's hysterical. Okay.
Despicable Me, yes.
Yes. And attacks on private firms in Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. Democratic Party, as well as a TV network in Britain. And so that is one potential theater of war for
Ooh,
Russia.
Russian hackers.
Yeah,
Russian
bad,
hackers.
bad.
Yeah.
The U.S. has just sent Marines into eastern Syria to join a major battle. Now, we've known that the U.S. has been in Syria for quite some time. Now, in early September, the Kurdish YPG launched an offensive against a pair of towns in northeastern Syria, termed the last ISIS-held territory. And officials claim that 211 ISIS and 113 Kurds have been killed since this event happened. Now, what is interesting about this, and this is being reported in Blacklisted News, the U.S. Marines are now being sent into the area to join the ground offensive. Previously, most of the support was in the air. This is a push onto the ground. However, most ISIS fighters in Syria are not in these remaining towns around Hajin. Rather, the vast majority are operating in the deserts around Deir ez-Zor province. This gives them mobility, avoiding airstrikes, and to ambush patrols as opportunities present themselves.
I think the reason those Marines are being sent on in is that the U.S. understands ISIS is going to be destroyed, and they want to swoop on in and claim the victory and say, we did it, not
Yes.
Syria, not Russia.
Yeah.
We, the American
Yeah.
forces, did ISIS to try and sort
Right.
of negate the fact that we know ISIS was working for the U.S.
Mhm.
right from the start.
All the time.
We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And what is your next story?
Well, the next story is all the demonization we see against Iran and the sanctions against it. And this was an op-ed in Global Research. And if you folks have not reached out to this website, it's globalresearch.ca because it's a Canadian blog. But they have a lot of very thoughtful articles. And this one is titled Trump's March to War with Iran. It would be a painless and pointless disaster.
It would be painful.
Painful and pointless. Thank you. Rented eyeballs, folks. I apologize. It would make the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan look like warm-up acts. It's going to cost trillions of dollars, kill tens of thousands of people, and destabilize an already volatile region. It would trigger a global recession as oil prices spike, and uncertainty will collapse the market.
It also
yeah.
risks direct confrontation with Russia.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And what might happen, it would not in any conceivable scenario lead to the establishment of a Western-centric government with Iran, because with war comes chaos. And if the current regime were to fall, the power would not pass on to peaceful demonstrators in the streets, but to those with the guns, the Revolutionary Guard. And in all likelihood, we would see a more virulent, dictatorial, more anti-American regime than we've got with the current one. And again, we have this timeline. Nothing with these claims or statements is a matter of happenstance. The timing is very careful.
Yeah.
On September 24th, National Security Advisor John Bolton, or as I prefer to call him, our National Insecurity Advisor, expanded the mission of U.S. combat forces in Syria, announcing that they would stay in that war-torn nation as long as Iranian troops are outside Iranian borders, and that includes Iranian proxies and militias. Now, this statement, which, by the way, Congress has never backed this. There is no congressional approval for war
for any of
against
this.
Syria.
The Iranians are in Syria with the permission of the government of Syria. So are the Russians.
Yeah, we're not.
No, the United States, it's weird to see the United States standing in Syria without any permission to be there and saying, you are the guys, you have to get on out.
Got to go. Yeah.
Okay, that's like crashing a party someplace, walking on in and saying, I don't like you people, even though you were invited, you have to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And this, sometimes wonder if the inability to see things through is a wanted capability by those in D.C. Because this, what it does is it brings the 2,000 U.S. troops in Syria in direct conflict with an estimated 10,000 Revolutionary Guard forces there. And on October 3rd, Bolton commandeered the White House podium yet again to announce that the administration is cutting diplomatic ties even further. The U.S. has terminated the 1955 Treaty of Amity, which was a basic diplomatic accord that regulates economic and consular ties between America and Iran, blaming Iran directly for attacks on a now closed U.S. consulate in Basra, Iraq, even though the Iranian consulate was similarly attacked by an angry crowd. He labeled Iran as a rogue regime and the central banker for international terror, and countered reporters' concerns that the U.S. was closing paths for diplomatic resolution with the assertion that U.S. actions were closing doors that shouldn't be opened. What in the name of heaven does he mean by that?
The Treaty of Amity was a symbolic gesture because it was basically signed under the reign of the Shah. And as of the 1979 revolution, for all intents and purposes,
was a dead duck.
It was a dead duck.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of Netanyahu's nuclear ducks. I'm not sure. But it was a way of thumbing their nose at Iran, and it was in response to the International Court of Justice ordering the United States to lift sanctions on humanitarian goods going into Iran, as well as any products or services related to civil aviation safety.
Right.
Now, the United States, unfortunately, has a long history of ignoring the rulings of the International Court of Justice.
Yes.
So I don't expect that to happen.
Okay.
But it underscores the fact that it is the United States and not Iran that is the rogue nation.
Yeah.
Because Iran is still playing by the rules. They're still in full compliance with the P5+1 nuclear agreement. It's the United States via Donald Trump that broke that agreement and went rogue.
Yeah. And I have to ask myself, why the timing? Why now? A couple of things. First, this potential attack on Iran was promised to both Sheldon Adelson, the man who now owns our Middle Eastern foreign policy, due to giving President Trump the maximum financial support legally allowable under law, and his other BFF in the Middle East, Prime Minister Netanyahu, along with a promise to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And unfortunately, and I say this looking at the gentleman's past and past decisions, I think we can say with a degree of safety President Trump is no master military strategist.
No, I would say not.
And he keeps on drinking the bloody Kool-Aid from his military advisors that such a war would actually be a winnable war. And here's the kicker.
His advisors may believe it. They're caught up in their groupthink about the United States has never lost a war, although we certainly lost in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
We never actually won. In fact, we just lost in Korea.
Yep.
Because they're getting back together. They've ended the war, and the U.S. is on the outs.
And the question which should keep some people in the bowels of power in D.C. awake at night is this. If President Trump goes into Iran, what will Russia, its longtime friend and trading partner, do? Now, Mike, I would think, just as they've done it in Syria, Russia, if Iran asks it, will assist Iran militarily against the U.S.
Oh, Russia has already indicated that if Iran is attacked, they will definitely come on in on the side of Iran.
And we also have a companion piece here along from Global Research, taking a page out of the Hussein Bush playback. And here it comes. Illegal sanctions. What these sanctions are ultimately going to do is starve what middle class Iran has to death. Women, children, well,
it's going to starve everybody.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is create so much economic turmoil in Iran that the Iranian people will bring down their government.
Yeah.
And that's been tried before. But we already know that other nations are going to go on trading with Iran.
Yeah.
They're not going to go along with the sanctions.
China's going to go on trading with...
Turkey's going along with it. Yeah. And pardon me. So, the rest of the world is really starting to de-link from the United States. They're tired of all the bullying. They all recognize the U.S. and its allies are the aggressor and the rogue.
Yeah.
And they're probably looking back at the rise of the Axis in World War II, and they're seeing way too many similarities.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're already sitting back and saying, how are we going to deal with this, and how many millions will die this time?
Yeah. Another very interesting perspective on Saudi Arabia. And it asks the question, which I think logically needs to be asked, is Saudi Arabia the Middle East's next failed state? And they talk a lot about Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's crown prince. He may be losing his grip economically. His reform program has been stalled since his father, King Salman, said no to the plans to privatize just 5% of Saudi Aramco. The Saudi war in Yemen, which the prince launched in March 2015, is worse and worse and worse.
It's a huge quagmire.
Yeah,
they're not doing very well.
And ever while the kingdom's sword rattling with Iran is making the whole region jumpy. Now, we know that there was heavy gunfire in Riyadh last April, which prompted rumors that MBS, as he's known, had been killed in a palace coup. And in May, an exiled Saudi prince urged top members of the royal family to oust him and put an end to his irrational, erratic, and stupid rule. Boy, not much love in that family.
No, not really. Well, there never has been.
No. And very recently, Bruce Riddell, an ex-CIA analyst who heads up the Brookings Institute's intelligence project, reported that the prince is so scared for his life, he's taken to spending nights on his yacht in the Red Sea port of Jeddah. So,
I would say he's probably more vulnerable there than he would be in his own palace.
Yeah.
I mean, the yacht could be torpedoed. It could be bombed.
And if Saudi Arabia falls, who or what does it fall to? Because you and I both know geopolitical nature abhors a vacuum. And it could potentially fall to someone just to the right of Attila the Hun, one of the ISIS groups.
It could very well be. But again, we saw all these descriptions about King Solomon being too old and mentally unfit. But I think he made the right call about Aramco.
Yeah.
Because Aramco is the heart of the Saudi government's money machine. And the idea of starting to privatize it away, that may be a short-term solution to Mohammed bin Salman's funding problems, especially relative to the war. But I think Ken Solomon understands they have to hang on to that.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
And of course, privatization around the world, everywhere it's been tried, it's usually a disaster. Great for whatever corporation comes on in and buys the asset, and terrible, of course, for the nation itself and its people.
Yeah. And we have SecDef Mattis making another claim about Russia. And this time, it's U.S. to respond to blatant Russian violation of arms treaty. And this follows the rant that we heard from U.S. Ambassador Kay Bailey Hutchinson threatening to start a war against Russia because they were not destroying a certain type of missile that was perceived a violation of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces INF Treaty.
Well, actually, the accusation is Russia has built a factory that is building this new ground-launched intermediate-range cruise missile, which can carry a nuclear warhead, which is claimed to be a violation of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. The problem is the U.S. itself is already in violation of that same treaty, and given how many other treaties it's broken or walked away from, it's the ultimate in hypocrisy. Okay?
But what he said next kind of shook me. Mattis claimed Russia is in blatant violation of INF and that the U.S. will not allow the cavalier disregard to continue. He says that the U.S. is reviewing a series... Now, everyone out there, please listen to this. A series of potential diplomatic and military options to be taken about it, and that not acting is untenable. Now, I don't know about our readers and listeners, but when I read that quote, the hair on the back of my neck stood up and did a conga. What in the world, and again, I think it goes back to the timing or wanting something to happen, looking Bush against Russia, Bush against Iran, Bush against China by the midterm elections. I think that may be driving all of this.
Well, that's a very dangerous way to play politics.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And we're discussing the accusations flying back and forth regarding the INF treaty. Mm-hmm. And Claire, I have to say, I disagree with your analysis that they're going to try and get this major war going before the midterm elections, because I think that would definitely backfire against the GOP. The American people are very much tired of war. I think if a major war cranked up before the midterms, the American voters are going to say, better we vote for the crybaby snowflake liberal Democrats than these Republicans who are bringing us closer and closer to Armageddon. That being said, I would not be surprised if we're really into World War III for real before the end of this year.
Neither
because
would
we're
I.
seeing the propaganda crank on up.
Yep.
The U.S. is just continues to provoke China, to provoke Russia, to provoke Iran, and it's clearly building to a crisis point.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think we can look for after the midterms is going to be a discussion, at least, of the resurrection of a draft.
Oh, they're already talking about it.
Yeah,
There was an article in USA Today
Okay.
just a few days ago saying that if we're going to go into Iran, there has to be a draft. Get used to the idea.
Ugh. That, I think, will start some demonstrations in this country.
Well, I would certainly like to hope so.
Peaceful,
Unfortunately,
nobody getting hurt, but yeah, peaceful, respectful demonstrations of opinion.
Okay, and if you're going to go out and demonstrate against the draft, just understand up front, George Soros will not be paying you.
No, definitely not. Going back to this INF treaty issue, it's been going on for years, and the U.S. is apparently objecting to a certain specific Russian test, and Russia insists the missiles don't violate the INF, but there's been no real desire or meeting to have a Russian-U.S. representative meet each other, check their testosterone or estrogen, as it may be, at the door and get this thing resolved. Because it's stuff like this that can be built in and escalate into an actual shooting war.
Well,
I
that's
don't
the
want to see
whole
that
point
happening.
here. The United States isn't interested in seeing what this missile is actually about. For one thing, it hasn't been deployed yet.
Yeah.
It's just now being built.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think I would like to know, does Mattis have any specifics about what the Russians are doing when talking to the American people? Because right now, I have to tell this government and SecDef Mattis, respectfully, this is feeling an awful lot like Saddam had weapons of mass destruction.
It
really
is definitely more of the same. Hutchison had no specifics. They just said what they're building is bad. It's dangerous. They're coming to get you.
Yeah.
And the whole point of an intermediate range missile is more about defense. It's the long range ICBMs that are really about attacking and destroying other countries.
Yeah. And I would very much like if Mattis has concrete proof that he presented logically and clearly in an irrefutable manner to the American people.
Well, that's not going to happen because if the U.S. government were to start actually providing hard, irrefutable proof of anything, then the American people are going to raise their expectation and say, from now on, every claim you make,
tell us the truth.
We want to see the hard, irrefutable proof, after all, because we were lied to about Saddam's nuclear weapons, and we were lied to about Assad's sarin gas, and we're sick and tired of being lied to, and the government is maintaining a policy of, we'll just tell you what to think, and we don't have to show you any proof. If you're an American patriot, you will believe the bovine excrement that we fling at you.
Yeah, but so many people of our generation and younger, that's no longer an option, Mike, when we're making decisions about domestic and foreign policies and how they need to be run, because we've seen the lies. The lies have been uncovered.
Yep.
In the immortal words of my late grandmother, and she said this frequently, God rest her soul, the horse is already out of the barn.
Yes, it definitely is.
You know.
Or the cat's out of the bag, or the genie's out of the bottle.
Whatever,
metaphor,
yes, yeah.
that
But
you
yeah,
want here.
yeah.
And even if the government succeeds in finding a way to shut down the independent media and even the peer-to-peer internet, other than going through the controlled social media, it's not like the American people are going to go back to believing what the government and the corporate media says at face value overnight.
They can't.
That trust has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And
eviscerated.
You can, it takes years, decades, to build up trust in the American people, and you can destroy it with one clumsy, stupid lie. And everybody that I talk to around here, when they say, what do you think about this? And I say, this is just the updated version of Saddam's nuclear weapons. And they go, oh, yeah.
They know.
Yeah,
People
they
know.
know.
People are smart.
They absolutely do.
Yeah. But it's interesting. We had a chance to speak with a friend of ours. We were looking at a piano for my church over the weekend. And we were talking about politics. And I was talking about how Bernie Sanders got ripped off of his opportunity to be the candidate of the Democratic Party. And she said, yeah, I felt the burn too. Now, I would not have quite expected that, but she's a very bright lady, and I think she saw what Hillary had to offer, didn't want it, but had no mechanism, as we, as Americans, had no mechanism of taking the nomination away from Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Well, that was the whole point of that. The DNC rigged the primaries for Hillary Clinton, and they have no shame about it. I think it was Dianne Feinstein. It was either Feinstein or Pelosi who came on out and said, it's perfectly okay for the Democratic National Committee to choose the candidate. Well, if that's true, why even have primaries?
There's
We got
no
to take
reason.
another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health by Amazon customers. It works for me. Return to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And before we get back to Claire here, there's a story that just came on over the news here. The former president of South Korea has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for corruption. And I think we need more of that sort of thing here in the United States of America.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely.
Okay, what is your next story?
I want to go back to Yemen and the degree to which the American people are not informed of just the horridness and just the black mark on the soul of this country for enabling Saudi war crimes here. It breaks my heart, because apparently the fighting in Yemen's Hodeidah is risking all-out famine, and UAE-backed forces are escalating with an all-out offense.
They're
right
definitely going for broke, as it were.
Yeah.
And if they get that port, the entire north of the country is going to starve to death.
Yeah, it will be cut off
which
completely.
is a war crime, by the way.
Yeah.
But we're in an age right now where these aggressor nations, the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel, don't care anymore. They're lawless governments.
Yeah, yeah. And Hodeidah is estimated to import food aid for about 70% of Yemen. And as we just discussed, the fighting has, at this point, cut off traffic to and from the city. And promises by Saudi Arabia for humanitarian corridor, meh, who cares? You know?
Yeah, it was a PR stunt.
Yeah, as most of them are in terms of any kind of aid or cholera treatment for the people who have gotten sick in just droves because the Saudis have destroyed the water infrastructure.
Well, it also could be weaponized. Cholera has been used as a biological weapon even back in World War II. When Japan invaded China, they were throwing cholera in all the village wells.
Right.
And right now, Yemen's is the worst cholera outbreak on Earth.
Yeah, pretty nasty. Now, this has happened before in the Saudi-led war in Yemen, where Saudi Arabia will do blockades on the ports, cutting the nation off from food imports for weeks at a time. And fighting could drag on much longer, and that could mean mass starvation, particularly, as we said, in the north of the country. You know, but you have to look at it from the standpoint of the people who are enabling and want this war to go forward. This is precisely the objective of the BOY, which is what I call the gentleman, Butcher of Yemen. I'm still being clean by FCC standards, but that's what I mean. Also known as Saudi Crown Prince bin Salman. And one of his BFFs in the Middle East, the American merchant of death-in-chief, President Trump. Now, the trick for them is going to be leaving this port as intact as possible in order to control it fully. And in order to do that, they're just going to starve the Yemeni people, try to starve the Yemeni people into submission.
Well, basically, they're in control of the port if they have cut off all the roads and highways and rail lines going in and out, then that's basically the end of Yemen's access to the port.
Yeah.
What I can't understand is why the United Nations is not stepping on in and saying this is unacceptable behavior.
I think Saudi Arabia, as a monarchy and as a country, has a lot of money to throw around.
Yes, they do.
And they're buying a lot of silence, as is the United States.
Yes.
And Mike, I think you're absolutely correct. In a world with any kind of humanity or any kind of order, the head of the UN would stand his ground, march over to the Saudi embassy and say, you've got to stop this in front of God, the cameras rolling, and everything. But he won't.
Well, you know, it's very alarming to see Saudi Arabia all of a sudden have the same carte blanche for war crimes that Israel currently has.
That's a dangerous combination if, in fact, they're looking at getting together, which I think they are.
Yeah, they are. Which is why the other day when they were talking about releasing all these documents supposedly linking Saudi Arabia to 9/11, I said, talk about lousy timing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to take a phone call now
Okay.
from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Actually, first, but I wanted to talk, Mike. Did you? I missed your show earlier about the big deal that Russia inked with India, and Modi says, "Screw you, U.S." Right?
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
Big deal, you know. And Mike, this not only for 5 S-400 systems, which they come in two in a system. So they said 5 systems or 5 batteries. So I mean, there's like that could be 10 units. That's like a lot.
Well,
you know, but though it's over till 2022 or something. It goes up to, you know. So
yeah, but the battalion, it's 2 radar systems, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but it's 2 radar systems, and I think it's like 4 or 5 launchers, and then a whole bunch of extra missiles.
But that wasn't, Mike. They're also, I don't know if you heard this, they also purchased 4 missile frigates from Russia. 2 are already built, but they're retrofitting them for Indian military specifications, and they're building 2 more for them. Also included is a nuclear reactor they're going to build for the Indians. So they're, like, Mike, we've been talking about, they're doing deals.
Yes.
China's doing deals. China's lowering their tariffs on other countries to make them more accessible.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, the United States is just we're not. Nothing's getting done. Do you realize with the cabinet, there's no infrastructure going on at all. I mean, Trump has been in how long already? Nothing is moving. You know, we're at a stalemate here, and it's just sad how the world's moving on without us.
Yes.
Us and the British will be left by ourselves. You realize that?
Yeah, we're collapsing empire just like the British Empire collapsed. And the United States in some form may continue, but it's not going to be the world power it once was. And therein lies part of the problem, because institutionally the federal government just got used to the idea of being able to push the rest of the world around and get what they want, and all of a sudden the rest of the world is starting to push back. Or else just walk away and say, we don't want to deal with you anymore. It's more trouble than it's worth.
And that coupled...
But the problem is... Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That coupled with the deliberate de-dollarization that we're seeing from countries around the world like China, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, it's all going to have a massive negative effect.
Yes. I mean, if the rest of the
it's
world...
It's like happening on purpose, though. Like, in a way, it seems like, I mean, they're intentionally, like, isolating us. I mean, they can't all be this stupid. You know? I mean, well...
Well, the bottom line is, they've gone too far down this pathway of war and bullying and sanctions. They can't turn around because so much of the U.S. economy is dependent on the war business. If they were to quit and say, we were wrong, we're calling it off, the U.S. economy would implode immediately. It may do that anyway. Frankly, at the point where the rest of the world realizes that the United States has become a serious threat to the entire planet, all they got to do is drop the dollar all at the same time, dump all their treasuries at the same time, the U.S. economy would implode. And the Federal Reserve would try and counter that with massive inflation, and we'd be in Zimbabwe territory, walking around with paper notes in our wallets that say, $10 billion on them.
I can buy 3 eggs for that.
Actually, no, you can't. You can get a postage stamp with this.
But Mike, look at what China's not buying our oil anymore.
Yeah.
Well, you know what that means? They're like the big what is it? We're the second largest seller of oil to China. Well, guess what? They're going to either go to Iran and Russia, so they can split the difference. And then throw in the Belt and the Road with India, all that. Remember what Peter from Los Angeles said about that gentleman that said it's the bread basket area of that whole. I forgot the name of the guy that was back in the day, like 1700s or 1600s. Like he said, it's the bread basket of the world. If you control that area of the world, the whole inland, then you'll be the next empire, I guess. Right? That's what it is. I guess. But,
basically, yeah, it's all about controlling resources, and the United States over the last decade, I guess, has been trying to increase its status as an oil exporter by opening up wilderness areas for oil exploration, tapping into oil reserves that were being kept for the future, but they're being used up now, along with the disaster of fracking. And now all of a sudden, China is saying, no, we're not going to be buying your oil anymore. And oil wasn't even on the list of tariffs. But China understands if we don't have any place where we can sell our oil, that's going to cut into our economy drastically. Basically, China is doing to the United States what the United States tried to do to Russia. Now, the good news, of course, for the American people is that there's now going to be a domestic glut of oil, so the prices at the gas pump, I hope, are going to start going down because they're pretty high right now.
Yeah, because you know what, Mike? Nobody's going to be able to buy that much of the oil China was buying. You know what I mean? Like nobody can add up to that amount, like that United States could sell outward. Right. So we really that's going to hurt us. And Mike, one more quick last thing before I get off the phone. Did you read this report about was it Mattis said something about we need nuclear reactors for remote military bases, which would mean outposts or something? I was reading the report like some kind of, I'm like, don't you find that weird?
Not really. There's actually a Japanese company that manufactures a commercial RTG generator that is in use for remote installations like the Antarctic, or any place where there's no available electric power, and you don't want to be constantly flying in fuel oil. And it's not a real fission type reactor where you've got the possibility of a meltdown or anything. These are basically scaled up commercial versions of the RTGs like we had on the Viking or we have on Curiosity, where it's simply an isotope that is decaying slowly and generating enough heat that can be converted to electricity through thermocouples. It's all solid state, and it's a really good technology, and the only reason it's not more publicly available is that it's very expensive to buy one of these, and there are, of course, all these controls about, concerns about handling these kind of nuclear materials.
So much for shrinking the empire. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot.
Thanks.
We're going to let you go. And what is your next story?
Speaking of China, China's leadership is trying to restrain itself from getting really nasty with the U.S. And China is warning what it calls the irresponsible U.S. to show military constraint. Now, the Chinese are already furious, Mike, at the U.S. for asking them to cancel annual military talks, which were supposed to happen later this month. And China is reacting very angrily, and I don't blame them, that the U.S. is planning a global show of force targeted at China in November.
Yeah, they're going to sail a major flotilla in and around all those islands in the South China Sea. It's a provocation.
Yeah,
they're just poking at China, and of course the American model has always been somehow goad the other side into attacking first, claim to be the victim, and roll on out there. And we've talked many times about how Roosevelt goaded Japan into the attack on Pearl Harbor to get the United States into the war. Actually, it was to backdoor the U.S. into the war against Nazi Germany. And when the U.S. entered World War II, the vast majority of the soldiers' military support went to Europe. And it wasn't until Germany collapsed that finally the U.S. really started putting adequate resources out in the Pacific to basically bring that part of the war to an end.
And the report suggested that the U.S. is going to ramp up military activities in November, midterms.
Yes.
I think that this is more an attempt to be butch because the U.S. military has done this before, and China has complained and maybe, threw a few attack something at the U.S. planes, but no more than that. And this would not only be in the South China Sea, the area around Taiwan. Now, Mike, this is going to take a bunch of U.S. combat aircraft as well as ground troops, right?
Well, it's, you're not going to have the aircraft, long-range aircraft can go there, but my guess it's going to be mostly naval assets.
Right.
And the message is going to be, we're ready to go to war over those islands in the South China Sea, and we're ready to go to war on behalf of Taiwan.
Yeah.
And again, if they're just trying to look butch for the elections, again, I think it's going to backfire because there are so many people who understand that all of this warmongering could lead to an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
We ended World War II with nuclear weapons. We could start World War III with nuclear weapons.
I agree. And, what concerns me is, and in D.C., they're always talking about it as freedom of navigation exercises. But if, as you said, that does devolve into a hot war against China, then what? We are so completely unprepared for a real full-on war involving all of our military assets. I don't know that the U.S. would be able to respond, to be honest.
Well, here's the bottom line. There is absolutely no way the United States could invade mainland China and conquer it, if for no other reason than the difference in our populations, along with the fact that most of our recruits, our military, are not in good physical shape. We reported on that earlier in the week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got another caller on the line.
Okay.
This is Fred in Iowa.
Okay.
Aloha, Fred. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Wow, Claire knocked the ball out of the ballpark.
Yes.
If you want to increase your listening audience, I would suggest you have Claire on more often.
Well,
And,
if she had the time, I would do so, because then I get to go off and take a nap.
Yes, you're very kind, but this is the day that works for me.
Nothing disparaging about you, Mike, but take a few naps and let Claire be on there, because
Well, she's the show's sex appeal.
can wake women up, and when women, by golly, get hostile and start to understand and expose the Department of Propaganda and the non-patriotic Patriot Act.
All right. Well, Fred, I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program on this Pauhana Friday. And Claire, you had another story you wanted to get into.
Yes, I really do. I think it's important. As we know, the airwaves generally from the corporatized prostitutes this last couple of weeks have been all Kavanaugh all the time.
Yes.
Right? When they tell you certain things and they feed you the commercials, they're not telling you other things, like what's going on in Yemen.
Or Syria.
Yeah. U.S. general warns of rising Afghan battlefield losses. Now, this is in his latest comment to reporters. And it's the U.S. Central Commander General Joseph Votel. And he did a confirmation that the Afghan military and police are facing increasingly high numbers of battlefield casualties following what he called a difficult and bloody summer. And this keeps on going in a way that makes me think that when someone tries to do something the same way again and again and again...
The definition of insanity.
It is. Do we have a Department of Insanity within the Pentagon? Because looking at these numbers, 17 years on, I bet that there's a dusty door somewhere that's the Department of Military Insanity.
Well, they got a Department of... everything else. There's going to be some kind of an acronym on there, like BIFSIM, your ComFam Pack, or something like that here. But the fact of the matter is that the Afghan military and the installed U.S. puppet rulers, they're losing ground to the Taliban. Putin's got to be laughing his head off.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
That the United States walked into the same trap as the former Soviet Union. There is a reason Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires.
Yeah, the British tried it. The old Soviet Union tried it. The only guy who was able to hang on to it, and that was for 3 years through a series of marriages and dynastic alliances, was Alexander the Great.
And
that was only for 3 years.
That was only for 3 years.
Now, this, in my view, has been can I say this word on air?
Yeah, if you say it exactly that way.
A flustercluck of unimaginable proportions. If the NATO High Command and U.S. military and civilian leadership of our country had half a brain together, they would get out our and their troops out of this country just as quickly as was safely possible. Then they would negotiate with whatever government was standing in Kabul for the rights to the pipelines, the rare earth minerals, and the opium crops.
Okay, they can't do that. And the reason is very simple.
Okay.
The United States cannot be seen to lose any of these wars. That's why they're going to stay in Syria, even though they're not wanted, and they fail to remove Assad. They're going to stay in Afghanistan at a huge cost to our soldiers and huge cost in money, because they don't want to say we lost that one, because then the wheels come off the war wagon, and what little public support exists for all of these wars is going to evaporate, and the whole thing's going to come crashing down. When you are engaged in multiple wars and you've got this long agenda leading forward, the first war that you lose is your last one.
I hear you. I hear you.
That's why, from the point of view of the U.S. military, they're stuck in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Okay, they can't be seen to withdraw. They can't be seen to give up. Same thing in Syria.
Yeah, I
hear you.
hear
The
you.
U.S. is going to stay in there under any pretext it can.
Yeah.
Rather than say,
Yeah.
"Ooh, we missed that one."
Yeah. It's
Anyway, there's the music.
Okay.
And it's time for Claire and I to get on out of here. And we have some errands to run this afternoon. Then we're going to take a little bit of time off this weekend because we're burned out, to be very, very honest here. And we will be back on Monday here on the Republic Broadcasting Network. So please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. Please take everything that you learn here and share it with everybody that you know. And I think we can all agree that World War III is a really bad idea.
Amen to that.
All right, so aloha, America.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's